Dad,
Okay.
John Lynch was asked, Larry Krueger
Yeah.
asked him, you said you wanted finishers. How has that pursuit of finishers been going? What did you think of John Lynch's answer and the topic in general?
Well, I love it. I love the topic. I do. And what I got from what John Lynch said was you can't have enough finishers on a team. Someone who plays to the end, wins a down, wins the game, makes a big play when you need to make a big play, a finisher. And from my experience, Ronnie Lott was a finisher. Joe Montana was a finisher. I would say until he fumbled the ball in the Super Bowl, McCaffrey is a finisher. And you know what? People fumble. So I'm going to call him a finisher. And I do agree that you need finishers. And I do agree that John Lynch was a finisher. And so he understands that this is a very, very important concept. Do you agree it's an important concept?
I think it's a vital concept because it's sort of creates a distinction, an important distinction, that someone could be really, 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 really good, but incapable of going the final step, right? Isn't that what it implies? That no matter how good you are, you could still not be a finisher, even though you have X amount of accolades.
Right. I'll give an example from baseball. Someone who was not a finisher with the Giants. Brandon Belt was never a finisher. You know, in the key moment, he would strike out looking. He would. He was never a finisher, and they paid him a lot of money. So
Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't a finisher.
No, Jimmy Garoppolo was not a finisher. He wasn't. Absolutely not. And you know what? I don't think Alex Smith was a finisher.
No. So that brings us back to the 49ers. They have a lot of good players. What about that coach, though, who hasn't won a Super Bowl and has had 3 tries?
Right.
Is he a finisher?
See, that's the irony of when I was watching Lynch and he was speaking so earnestly from the heart. And here's this guy sitting next to him with a hat on. You know, sometimes he looks like he climbed out of the hamper. And I'm thinking, here is doing a eulogy, a Hall of Fame player doing a eulogy for finishers. And he's sitting elbow to elbow with a guy who can't finish. Can't finish. He was ahead in the last Super Bowl. And he couldn't finish. He came out for the third quarter and didn't know how to finish the game. And then when it went into overtime, he didn't know the rules and he didn't know how to finish the game. There's Mahomes skipping off the field, saying to his teammates, they want the ball. They want the ball. He couldn't believe it. So there were at least 2 times in the Super Bowl, he didn't know how to finish. So here is Lynch talking correctly about finishers next to a guy who couldn't know a finish if it kissed him on the mouth.
Right. And when people downplay the fact that Kyle not only hasn't won a Super Bowl, but has had double-digit leads in multiple Super Bowls and lost them, they always say like, well, you know, he's still so great in the regular season and he has the best offense, and they list all of his accomplishments as if that outweighs losing just one game. But we're talking about a skill set. John Lynch acknowledges that there is a particular trait that certain athletes and coaches have, the finishing trait. And I think the biggest critics of Kyle could say, I don't care what his system is or whatever he does, it does not have the finishing trait. And if you don't believe me, put him in a Super Bowl and see what happens.
Also, what bothers me is he gets credit, Kyle, for losing Super Bowls. Well, at least he got there. You know, he got to the Super Bowl. Why should you get credit for losing a Super Bowl? Bill Walsh never lost a Super Bowl. George Seifert never lost a Super Bowl. Where's the credit in losing a Super Bowl? You got in the Super Bowl, fine. Now win the game. close the deal. Be a finisher. Finish. He couldn't do it.
Right. And
Can't
and
do it.
people always talk
And
about it from the
so I
negative
would
point.
say, I'm not hearing you, Iggy.
Go ahead, Dad.
Okay. People always talk about him, you know, finishers. He's not a finisher. I have been around finishers. Stephen Curry is a finisher. Steve Kerr is a finisher. Bill Walsh was a finisher. Patrick Mahomes is a finisher, right? I mean, you have a feeling on who's a finisher. And this guy, the coach, they can have as many finishers on the field as they want. But if the coach doesn't know how to finish, they're screwed.
Yeah, and it's funny about them is like when Kyle Shanahan blows the lead in the Super Bowl and loses, you always hear his defenders say like, "Well, it's not his fault," or "People have to execute," or yada yada yada. And maybe some of that's true. Like it's not his fault that Ray McLeod fumbled. But if you're a great coach and a finisher, and you have this team and a lead, you should be able to be one of the main reasons the team wins. One of the main people who finds the path to victory.
Right.
But when you have 4th and 4 at the Chiefs 9-yard line in overtime, you didn't want to finish. You wanted to kick a field goal and ask the defense to finish the game. So yeah, like he's not a finisher. He doesn't want the role, and if he had the role, he wouldn't know what to do with it.
He could have finished that Super Bowl right then and there. A coach with moxie would have done it. I could name a lot of coaches, starting with Jim Harbaugh. He wouldn't have kicked the field goal, Iggy. Yeah. So no, he's
Andy Reid wouldn't have kicked the field goal.
He's not a finisher. No. Kyle has defined himself as a non-finisher, an anti-finisher. Now, does that mean he's condemned to that for the rest of his life? No, he can change. And maybe one of the things this season is about is transforming himself from a non-finisher to a finisher. But he needs to make a transformation. He needs to improve. And that's one of the defining themes of this season.
Yeah, you'd think if
there
were
others,
a great coach, you'd think if you were a great coach at the end of a Super Bowl that's tight, he could do something, make a decision, call a play that puts them over the top. And not only has he not done that or just gotten out of the way, he has gotten in the way. He has been one of the main reasons they've blown big leads, not big leads, but double-digit leads. Him. So, yeah, it's like it's beyond not finishing. I mean, finishing is you know what's the opposite of finishing? Choking.
What?
Choking. And he's choked. So, yeah, they got to finish. How many finishers does it take on a team to overcome a coach who's a choker?
Okay. Hey, Iggy, I love it.
Yeah.
He's so smart. I hadn't thought of that. So the scale is one end is a finisher, the other end is a choker. And what we see is choke-o-matic.
Yeah, I mean, he gets paid more than most coaches. He's supposed to be one of the best. Show it when it matters. In the second half of the Super Bowl when you're winning. That's the time. You've had that opportunity multiple times, and you had no idea what to do with it multiple times. Okay,
I got a question for you.
Sure.
And this is pure speculation. When Lynch was talking today about finishers, do you think he was completely innocent about that the guy next to him is a choker and not a finisher? Or do you think it was a subtle jab at the coach? I have an opinion. What do you think?
I think Lynch is smart enough to understand that the jury's out on whether or not Kyle's a finisher, and that one of them is a champion and it's not Kyle. So I think it probably made him happy to say that.
So you think it might have crossed his mind when he was speaking?
Yeah. One of us is a champion, one of us isn't. And it's hard to say you're a finisher if you are not a champion.
Yeah. My guess is, and I could be wrong because I don't know Lynch anymore. My guess is that he probably was innocent and didn't make the connection, but we're helping him. We're helping him to
Yeah.
make the connection.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We'll take a couple super chats and then we'll talk about what Kyle Shanahan said to me today. Big Tim 3 says, Grant, did you smile back at Kyle after his response to your question? Seems like he's finally warming up to you. LO. I did smile at Kyle. I always give Kyle a big smile. I'm a big fan. Joe Crowell says, afternoon, gents. Mr. Cohn, after reading your first Substack post, I ordered your book through my local seller. She wanted you to know that the cover photo you chose is beautiful. That's
the
right.
Publisher chose it, but thank you so much.
And if you haven't subscribed to my dad's Substack, I just posted the link in the chat. Make sure you all click on that right now and subscribe because he's out of retirement and he's the best writer in the Bay Area, in the country, but certainly in the Bay Area. And he's going to be writing about more than just Bay Area sports, although he will be writing about Bay Area sports when it's time to do so. So everyone, please subscribe. And also like this stream if you haven't liked it already, because we got 1,700 people in here right now watching, which is just a mitzvah and a blessing. Okay.
Anyway, it's free to subscribe. I'm not charging. And the last one that's up that I put up yesterday is about the last time I ever saw Bill Walsh alive, and it'll make you cry.